My name is Vera Cole, and I'm 32 years old. On a Thursday afternoon, I was in the middle of an email about Q3 forecasts when the front desk called my extension. Vera, can you come down to reception? The receptionist's voice sounded tight, like she just witnessed a minor car accident. I frowned at my screen. Is something wrong? There's someone here who needs your signature. They say it's legal documents. Legal documents. For about half a second, my brain tried to make it something harmless in HR form, a benefits update, anything. Then my stomach dropped. I'd done nothing wrong, but that didn't matter. Legal meant serious, and serious rarely meant good. When I stepped into the lobby, the air felt different. Too bright, too quiet. A man in a cheap suit stood by the chairs, a stack of papers in his hands. He looked at a clipboard, then at me. Miss Vera Cole. Yes, I said slowly. He handed me an envelope with practiced indifference. You've been served. The words hit like a slap. I'd seen this in movies, not in the lobby of my office building where I drank bad coffee and fixed broken spreadsheets. I took the envelope. My fingers felt numb. The receptionist pretended not to listen, but I could feel her eyes on me. Inside the envelope, a restraining order. The petitioner's name, Leo Vance, age 27. My boyfriend of 4 years. My vision tunneled for a moment. I forced myself to breathe and started reading. He alleged emotional and financial abuse. He attached text messages where I had asked why he'd spent $3,200 at a high-end store after telling me he couldn't cover his car payment. An email where I suggested we sit down and create a budget. A few clipped screenshots taken out of context so carefully that I could almost see Sylvia's manicured hand guiding the selection. One line from my text highlighted, "Hey, didn't you say you were behind on your car payment? How did you afford new designer sneakers?" In Leo's statement that became, Vera tracks every purchase I make and grills me relentlessly, creating a toxic environment where I fear her reactions. I actually laughed. This weird, breathless noise that made the receptionist flinch. Fear my reactions. He'd bought a PS5 on a credit card I was paying, then told me he couldn't afford his therapy copay. The only time I raised my voice was when I found out he'd used my emergency fund to pay off his own overdraft fees because it was all our money anyway. But on paper, I was a villain. The order required that I stay 100 yards away from him. No contact, direct or indirect. No calls, no texts, no social media messages, no financial control. My hands trembled, but I made myself read every word right there in the lobby. If the court was going to brand me as abusive, the least I could do was understand the story they were telling. Reality check. Leo had 4 credit cards, all in his name, all on automatic payments from my accounts. His apartment lease listed me as guarantor because his credit score looked like a post-apocalyptic landscape. His car insurance was under my policy. I'd been temporarily covering his expenses for 3 years. Apparently, asking a single question about a $3,200 shopping spree was abuse. My cheeks burned not from guilt, but from humiliation. Anyone walking through the lobby could see the envelope, the legal letterhead, the strain in my face. Somewhere on another floor, people were arguing about marketing copy while I was being recast as a financial abuser. The process server cleared his throat. You, need anything explained? No, I said. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. I understand perfectly. I didn't call Leo. Couldn't. The order was in effect immediately. The irony was sharp. He'd filed this to keep me away. And for the first time, I was truly obligated to give him what he said he wanted. The thing about being accused of abuse in a legal document is that it snaps something inside you. There's the hurt, of course, the betrayal, the disbelief that someone who slept next to you for 4 years would stand in front of a judge and say those words. But there's also clarity. If my involvement in his finances was abusive, then the most ethical thing I could do was remove myself from that situation completely. Enthusiastic compliance. I went back upstairs. My coworkers looked up when I walked past. I must have been paler than usual. I shut my office door, sat down, and opened my banking apps. First, the credit cards. 4 accounts in Leo's name with me making every payment. There was no joint agreement. No legal obligation on my end. I'd just been helpful, naive. Not anymore, I whispered. I halted every automatic payment. One by one, I confirmed each cancellation, forwarding the confirmations to my personal email. I wasn't sabotaging him. I was simply stopping voluntary payments to someone who told the court my financial involvement was abusive. Next, I removed him as an authorized driver from my car insurance. The representative sounded mildly surprised. "Is there a reason for the change?" she asked. "Legal issues," I said, "and a restraining order that requires distance." That shut down the small talk. Then the lease. Leo's apartment wasn't mine. I was just the safety net. I called the property management office. Gina, the manager, remembered me immediately. "Vera. Hey, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "I need to withdraw as guarantor on Leo Vance's lease." There was a pause on the line. "May I ask why?" "Because Mr. Vance has filed a restraining order against me, claiming my financial involvement is abusive," I said calmly. "I'm complying by ending that involvement." Gina exhaled slowly. "Okay, I'll need written notice. There's a 30-day period while we process the removal. After that, he'll have to qualify independently or find a new guarantor." "And if he can't," I asked, "then he'll need to move out or face eviction." I stared at the spreadsheet on my screen, the neat columns and balanced formulas that used to soothe me. "Understood. Please send me the forms." I stopped the automatic transfers I'd set up for his utilities and random emergencies. I changed the passwords on my Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and every other streaming service he used more than I did. I removed his phone from my family plan effective next billing cycle. Every click felt like cutting a tiny thread. Individually, they were nothing. Together, they were the web he'd been resting on. I documented everything, downloaded confirmation PDFs, took screenshots, sent backup copies to a cloud folder titled simply Boundaries. By 3:00 p.m., I was in a client meeting explaining cost projections like my life wasn't on fire. I smiled in the right places. I made a joke about spreadsheets being my love language. People laughed. No one knew that downstairs in the security office there was now a copy of a court order with my name on it. That evening, my phone was silent. No "Where are you?" texts. No "Can you spot me until Friday?" messages. No memes. No half-hearted apologies. No guilt-dipped compliments. The restraining order worked both ways. He couldn't contact me either. For the first time in years, my notification bar was empty. The silence was unnerving. It felt like standing in my apartment after a storm, waiting to see which parts of the roof still leaked. I brewed tea, stared at the wall, and let the anger and shock roll through me in waves. He really did it, I thought. He actually told a judge that I was abusing him by paying his bills and asking questions. I went to bed, the envelope on my nightstand like a bad luck charm. I didn't cry. I was too stunned to. 2 days later, on Saturday at 8:00 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it, heart thudding, knowing in my bones that Leo's little financial galaxy had finally noticed its son was gone. I answered, "Cole." A male voice, calm, practiced. "This is Mr. Briggs. I represent Mr. Leo Vance. I believe there's been a misunderstanding regarding the protective order." "Misunderstanding," I repeated, still groggy from sleep. The morning light filtered through my blinds in soft stripes, completely at odds with the tension knitting beneath my ribs. "Yes," Mr. Briggs continued smoothly. "My client has encountered issues. Several of his financial accounts have been closed. I stopped making voluntary payments," I said, "which I'm not legally obligated to continue." A pause. "Yes, Miss Cole, but he depended on those payments." I stared at the ceiling, letting the absurdity sink in. Then he should have considered that before filing a restraining order claiming those payments were abusive. Silence stretched over the call like a tight wire. Finally, Mr. Briggs tried again. "Surely we can find a solution. My client is open to amending the order to allow financial discussions." "No need," I said warmly. "I'm fully complying with the order. No contact means no contact. That includes no financial support." "But the lease," he said, his voice tightening. "I've already given proper notice to withdraw as guarantor. That's between me and the property management, not him. This is retaliatory." "This," I replied, "is compliance." He said my financial involvement was abusive. I'm removing myself from that abusive situation. I'm doing what he asked for. Isn't that the entire point? He inhaled sharply. Miss Cole. Mr. Briggs, I added softly. Enjoy your weekend. I hung up. For a long moment I sat there in the quiet of my apartment phone still in my hand. No shaking, no second guessing, just a strange calm acceptance settling into my bones. This was the consequence of Leo's choices, not mine. 20 minutes later my phone buzzed like a hornet's nest. Not from Leo, he couldn't contact me, but from his friends. Accusatory texts, dramatic paragraphs about how I'd ruined Leo's life overnight, screenshots of Instagram stories calling me toxic and controlling posted by his best friend Tess, someone who'd spent countless nights on my couch eating the takeout I paid for. I didn't respond to a single one. I just screenshot everything and saved it to a folder labeled Indirect Contact Exhibit A. A restraining order works both ways. Third-party harassment counts. Hours passed. By Monday morning, the fallout grew claws. At 9:15 a.m., I opened my work email, a formal letter from Mr. Briggs. Demand for temporary financial support during transition period. My reply was one sentence. Per the restraining order, I cannot have any contact or relationship with Mr. Vance, including financial involvement. Please advise your client that I am fully complying with the court order. I CC'd my lawyer, Mr. Thorne, hired Saturday afternoon after Mr. Briggs's call. 5 minutes later, social media blew up. Tess had posted a dramatic story. When toxic women weaponize money after being called out for emotional abuse. Arc justice for Leo. But Tess made a fatal mistake. She included screenshots of Leo's messages to her. One read, "She canceled everything. I can't even watch Hulu. I told you the restraining order would make her notice, but now she won't pay my cards. Briggs says he can't force her." Another, "This backfired so hard, I shouldn't have listened to Mom." Someone sent the entire story archived to me anonymously. I forwarded it to Mr. Thorne, who replied, "Gold. Keep everything." Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed again. Gina from the apartment complex. "Hi, Vera," she said, sounding hesitant. "I am required to inform you that Mr. Vance hasn't provided alternative qualifications or a new guarantor. He has 23 days left." I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. Understood. "But something happened today," she continued. My stomach tightened. What happened? Mr. Vance came in with his mother. She attempted to submit a lease renewal form signed with your name. I blinked. "Excuse me, we compared it to your signature on file. It was clearly forged. And we have both pen pressure analysis and security footage." I closed my eyes. "What did you do?" "We forwarded it to our legal team," Gina said carefully. "And to local police. Attempted forgery on housing documents is a criminal offense." A slow breath left my lungs, half shock, half resignation. Sylvia Vance had always given me a bad feeling, her sweetness like frosting over something rotten, but I never imagined she'd commit actual fraud to keep Leo afloat. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. After the call, I sat back in my chair, hands pressed against my face. This wasn't just Leo spiraling. This was generational chaos rolling downhill. By Wednesday, the chaos had a body count. Metaphorically, Mr. Thorne called during my lunch break. "You're going to love this," he said. "Sylvia tried to contact you." "She did?" I asked wearily. "On LinkedIn," I groaned. "A professional platform isn't covered by the restraining order, is it?" "No," he said, "but her message is still useful." He read it aloud. "Vera, this is absurd. You and Leo had a minor disagreement and now you're ruining his life. Step up and fix this." I laughed, an honest, incredulous laugh. "Fix what?" I said, "the financial abuse she accused me of." Mr. Thorne chuckled. "This family is a walking deposition." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling tiles. This wasn't personal anymore. It was predictable, patterned. I was finally seeing the roots of Leo's behavior. Where the entitlement grew from, why accountability felt like an attack to him, how easily he twisted narratives when backed into a corner. Sylvia wasn't just enabling him, she was teaching him. Thursday morning, things escalated again. Leo's car was repossessed. Not because of me, because he hadn't made a payment in 4 months. I'd been covering those payments, believing his promises that he'd catch up soon. Without my transfers, the truth surfaced like a corpse in a lake. Tess posted about it on social media. He took Leo's car. This is financial abuse. A stranger commented, if he took the car, that means he was paying for it. How is stopping payment on someone else's car abuse? Tess deleted the post. By afternoon, the spiral had fully begun. Leo's credit cards started declining. He'd maxed every one of them out in a 3-day panic spree, probably thinking I'd cave and pay them off like always. Then my phone rang. Mr. Briggs again. His tone was strained this time. Miss Cole, my client is willing to drop the restraining order. I don't consent, I said immediately. What? Why the order protects him? Exactly. I said I don't want him to feel unsafe. The order should stay in place. He made a frustrated noise. You could agree to a mutual dissolution. I've adjusted to comply with the order. No need to change anything now. He'll be evicted. That's unfortunate, I said. But I can't be involved in his housing. That would violate the order. Mr. Briggs hung up on me. I set my phone down, suddenly exhausted. But underneath the exhaustion, there was something else. Peace. Not happiness, not closure, just space. For the first time in years, I wasn't financially babysitting an adult man with a savior complex and a mother who forged signatures like it was a hobby. And without that burden in my life, I felt lighter than I expected. Friday afternoon, Mr. Thorne called again. You may want to sit down for this one, he said. Please tell me Sylvia didn't rob a bank, I muttered. Close, he said. The forgery charge became official. She was arrested at her Pilates class. I burst out laughing. He continued. According to the police report, public record, by the way, she's also under investigation for attempting to add herself to your car insurance as Leo's guardian. Leo is 27. My jaw dropped, and Mr. Thorne added, voice bright with disbelief. She also attempted to open a credit card in your name. I rubbed my forehead. That's identity theft. Exactly. Which is why the charges escalated. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't a breakup. This was an extraction from a collapsing ecosystem built on entitlement, fraud, and manipulation. And I was finally out of it. By the following week, Leo's world, propped up for years by my money, my credit, my stability, finally began collapsing under its own weight. And with every update, I felt the same strange mix of disbelief, vindication, and the quiet ache of recognizing just how deeply I'd been used. The first shock came Tuesday evening. I was chopping vegetables for dinner when my phone buzzed with Gina's name. I wiped my hands on a towel and answered. Hi, Gina. Everything okay? Her sigh was heavy. I'm afraid not. I wanted to update you on Mr. Vance's lease. I leaned against the counter. Let me guess. He still hasn't found a guarantor. No. And well, he came in today with his mother again. My shoulders tensed. What happened now? Sylvia tried to argue that you were secretly still supporting him and that the forgery was a misunderstanding. When we didn't buy it, she caused a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort them out. I pressed my lips together. Sylvia had always struck me as the sort of woman who believed the world owed her son a cushioned life and that other people existed to provide it. Thank you for letting me know, I said softly. After we hung up, I just stood there for a moment, the knife still in my hand, the onions forgotten on the cutting board. I used to think Leo's irresponsibility was immaturity. I used to think Sylvia's over-involvement was smothering love. Now I saw the truth clearly. It was generational manipulation masquerading as helplessness. By Wednesday, the story had made its way to Leo's lawyer. Mr. Briggs sent an email asking for a good faith discussion. Mr. Thorne advised me to ignore it. Instead, I forwarded every new message and screenshot to our shared drive. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It read, "You're letting him be homeless over a dumb fight." No signature, but the combination of watery guilt and thinly veiled accusation was unmistakable. Sophie, one of Leo's self-appointed moral guardians who'd never paid a bill in her life. I replied with a single sentence. I'm respecting his need for protection from my alleged abuse. Would you rather I violate a restraining order? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then she blocked me. By Thursday afternoon, things had taken a spectacular turn. Leo's car repossession hit social media again. This time, someone posted the actual repossession notice. They'd blurred out personal details but left the date clearly visible. 4 months of missed payments. Comments flooded in. So she stopped paying and he got the car taken. How is that her fault? Wait, did he think she'd keep paying after he filed a restraining order? Bro, what was the plan? Someone wrote, "This is financial abuse on her." And I almost laughed. It was the first time strangers had gotten it right. Friday morning, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I braced myself before answering. Ms. Cole. A deep voice asked, "This is Sergeant Allen from the County Police Department." My stomach lurched. Is this about Sylvia? Yes, ma'am? I'm calling to inform you that additional charges have been filed. I closed my eyes, already expecting the worst. She attempted to open a credit card online using your social security number. The application was flagged and is now part of the ongoing investigation. Of course it is, I murmured. He cleared his throat. We may reach out again if further statements are needed. Understood, I said. When I hung up, I pressed my palms against my eyes, equal parts exhausted and weirdly liberated. The truth was undeniable now. Leo wasn't just irresponsible. He was raised to avoid consequences at all costs and to let everyone around him absorb the fallout. I was just the latest in a long line of shields, and I was the first to step away. Later that afternoon, I got a LinkedIn message, not from Sylvia this time, from a man named Walter Vance. My chest tightened. Leo's father. His message was brief. Vera, I'm not calling about reconciliation. I want to apologize for everything. If you're willing, I'd like a short call. I hesitated. This could be a trap. But Mr. Thorne said a call was permissible as long as Leo wasn't involved. So I agreed. Walter called that evening. His voice was weary, like someone carrying a decade-old bruise. I heard about the restraining order, he began, and about the forgery. My jaw clenched. Did Sylvia tell you? A humorless laugh? No. Sylvia only tells the truth by accident. One of my coworkers forwarded me a video. Apparently she tried to give some kind of statement outside the courthouse. It's circulating in legal circles as an example of what not to do. I sat on my couch, stunned. She held a press conference. Oh yes, he said dryly. Claims she forged documents because she was protecting Leo. I rubbed my forehead. That sounds right. Vera, he said, voice softening. I'm calling because I went through this exact nightmare with Sylvia during our divorce. False accusations, emergency protective orders filled with creative embellishments, attempts to get me arrested over fabricated threats. She even forged my signature on a loan once. My breath caught. She did the same thing to me, I whispered. Part of me had known it, but hearing it confirmed was unsettling. Leo grew up watching that, Walter said. He learned that when things go wrong, you blame the person who cares the most. You use people until they break, and when they push back, you paint yourself the victim. A cold wave washed through me. He did this to a previous girlfriend too, Walter added quietly. Filed a protective order when she threatened to leave, claimed emotional abuse. Her family forced him to drop it when they pulled school records showing Sylvia had tried the same tactic years prior. My heart sank. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked softly. You seemed so happy with him at first, he said. I hoped maybe he'd changed. He exhaled slowly, but I should have warned you. I pressed my fingers against my eyes. Thank you for telling me now. You're doing the right thing, he said. Don't give in. The Vances escalate until someone refuses to play anymore. Then they latch on to the next person. When we hung up, I sat in the dim glow of my living room, every word echoing in my mind. This wasn't a breakup. This wasn't even betrayal. This was a generational cycle of manipulation, and I had walked right into it because I mistook chaos for charm, helplessness for vulnerability, and neediness for affection. But I wasn't trapped anymore. That night, I signed up for a baking class I'd put off for years. I bought myself the expensive coffee maker Leo always complained took up too much counter space. I spent an hour recalculating my monthly budget and realized I had an extra $100 a month I didn't have before. I slept better than I had in months. Not because everything was resolved, but because for the first time, Leo's problems were finally his. 3 weeks after the restraining order, the situation detonated in a way only the Vance family could engineer. Loud, messy, dramatic, and entirely self-inflicted. It started with a phone call from my mother. I was leaving my building after work when her name lit up my screen. "Mom," I answered. Her voice was vibrating with a mix of amusement and fury. "Mija, guess who called me today?" I froze on the sidewalk. "No." "Oh yes," she said. "That boy Leo." I pressed a hand to my forehead. "What did he say?" "He said you wouldn't talk to him because of a misunderstanding and asked me to convince you to meet him privately." The audacity physically weakened me, and I asked, bracing myself. My mother snorted. I told him, "You filed legal documents saying my daughter abuses you. Do you want her to violate a restraining order? Are you out of your mind?" I couldn't help it. I laughed right there on the street. Mom continued. "He said it was his mother's idea. Something about needing space and wanting to show you how serious he was about the relationship." The laugh died in my throat. Wanting space from my questions, not my money, wanting to scare me into silence, not lose the credit line he treated as an organ. And when I told him that Mom said he hung up on me, I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Equal parts exhausted and strangely vindicated. "Thank you, Mom." "Mija," she said firmly, "you dodged a missile. Not a bullet, a missile." I believed her. The next escalation came on day 24 of the 30-day notice period. I was in my office when security called. "Ms. Cole, there's someone here insisting they need to speak with you." My pulse tightened. "Who?" "Mr. Leo Vance." The air froze. "He's here in the building." "Yes, he's crying and trying to get past the front desk." I shot to my feet. "Do not let him through. There's an active restraining order. Call the police." There was a pause. Then I hung up, heart hammering so hard it made my vision swim. Downstairs, a scene unfolded that half the building ended up whispering about for days. Leo, red-eyed and frantic, insisting, "I just need one conversation." Security blocking him firmly. Reception trying to calm him down. Employees filming from behind potted plants. By the time police arrived, Leo was hysterical. He kept shouting, "She ruined my life. She has to fix it. And you don't understand. She can pay for everything and the worst. She owes me." Every word cemented the truth. He didn't miss me. He missed the resources. The moment the officers cuffed him for violating his own restraining order, he sobbed like a child. They escorted him out past the glass doors, still crying, still begging, still blaming. He spent the night in jail. Not because of me, but because he couldn't follow the rules he weaponized. The irony was so sharp it felt like satire. The following morning, my phone buzzed again. "Gina Vera, Leo was officially evicted today," she said gently. "He has 48 hours to vacate." I exhaled slowly. "Did he find new housing?" "No, he applied to several complexes, but the combination of credit checks and the recent arrest, well, he was declined everywhere." I nodded, even though she couldn't see. "I understand." There was a pause. "I'm sorry it ended like this." I wasn't. Not anymore. And then, because the Vances never do anything quietly, Sylvia decided to hold a press conference. Yes, a press conference outside the courthouse, wearing oversized sunglasses and an outfit that screamed aspiring politician. 3 reporters showed up, likely because the day was slow. She stood behind a portable podium. Where did she even get that? And launched into a speech about financial abuse, predatory women who control men with money, her daughter's bravery in standing up to emotional manipulation. It was almost impressive, her ability to lie with such conviction. But then a reporter raised her hand. "Ma'am, are you not currently under indictment for identity theft and forgery?" Silence. The cameras continued rolling. The reporter added, "Court records show you attempted to forge Ms. Cole's signature multiple times and open credit lines in her name." "How is that not financial abuse?" Sylvia visibly cracked. "That was irrelevant," she sputtered. "I was protecting my son." "By committing fraud," the reporter pressed. The press conference ended in under 5 minutes. The footage didn't air on mainstream news, but it flooded legal TikTok and Reddit. One attorney titled it, "Fog Fraud and Forgeries, a Masterclass in What Not to Do." That weekend, I ran into Tess at the grocery store. She spotted me before I saw her, and immediately tried to duck behind the produce aisle. Tess, I said calmly, catching up. She stiffened. Oh, hi. How's Leo? I asked evenly. Her expression twisted. He's living with his mom working retail now. That's good, I said sincerely. He needed stability. She swallowed. He really cared about you, you know. I tilted my head. He filed a restraining order to avoid a conversation about his spending. That was Sylvia's idea, Tess blurted. She said it would make you take him seriously. Not his lies? I asked gently. Not his overdraft fees. Not the rent I covered for 3 years. Tess's mouth opened, then closed. It sounds bad when you say it like that, she mumbled. I raised a brow. How else would you say it? She had no answer. In the end, everything fizzled out quietly. Sylvia pleaded guilty to the forgery and identity theft charges, probation, community service, mandatory financial counseling. Leo stayed with her in a cramped one-bedroom in a rough neighborhood far from the upscale apartment I'd once guaranteed. His credit score plummeted into the low 400s. He picked up a new girlfriend. According to gossip, he'd already asked her for financial help. Patterns always repeat until someone breaks them, and it wasn't going to be me. As for the restraining order, it remained active. When Leo petitioned a judge to dismiss it, citing mutual reconciliation, the judge noted he had violated it himself and refused. 9 more months. 9 months of silence. 9 months of peace. One night, 2 months after his arrest, I made myself a cup of tea, leaned back in my newly quiet apartment, and stared at the restraining order tucked inside my file cabinet. It no longer felt humiliating. It felt poetic. He filed it to control me. He filed it to scare me. He filed it to force obedience. But all it did was give me the cleanest, safest exit I ever could have imagined. No guilt, no arguments, no bargaining, no, maybe if we try again. Just a legal, court-sanctioned, irrevocable, no-contact break. His own weapon became my liberation. And to anyone in a similar situation, I'd say this. When someone shows you their true character through legal documents, believe them. When they demand distance, give them the entire galaxy. When they insist your support is abuse, stop supporting them. And when they play manipulative games, respond with enthusiastic, immaculate compliance. That restraining order didn't ruin my life. It saved it. Maybe this story touched something inside you, a moment you lived, a feeling you once carried. If it did, share your thoughts or your own experience in the comments. And tell me where you're watching from, so I can create more stories, just for you.